Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Weymouth Town Council Services Committee, held today on the 1st of March, first official day of spring. Just a point that unfortunately we've not been able to live stream this meeting, but it is still being recorded, and the recording will be made public via our YouTube page. So as a reminder, as always, anything you do say in this meeting is public and may be used by anyone out there in the public who may require to use it for some purpose. I'd like to start the meeting also by just congratulating our resort team. I'm sure we've all seen the press recently that Weymouth's beach has been classed as the second best beach in the UK and 14th in Europe. So a big well done to Will and the rest of the resort team who work very hard all year round to maintain our wonderful beach. Going to move on then to item 2 on the agenda this evening, which is apologies for absence. Freya.
Yeah, so we just got apologies from Michael for us.
Thank you very much. Anyone else know of any apologies? Can I have a proposer for those apologies, please? Councillor Matt Bell, and seconded by Councillor Kevin Brooks. All those in favour, raise your hands. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Item 3 on our agenda is declarations of interest. I'm going to ask, first of all, Freya, have we had any notified into the office?
Just from you, Councillor.
So I have declared a non-pecuniary interest on item 8 on the, sorry, not item 8, item 9 on the agenda, which is the free use of Dorset Council car parks. I'm a member of Weymouth and Portland Lions Club who have applied for one of the day's use. Councillor Brooks?
Same as yourself, Mr. Chairman, member of Weymouth and Portland Lions Club.
Thank you very much. And just to confirm, that's non-pecuniary.
Yeah.
Thank you. Members, if any other declarations will come up during the meeting, you can make those declarations at any time. Moving on to the minutes of our last meeting. So members are asked to agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of February. Does anyone have any comments on those minutes first of all? Or if not, can I have a proposer to take the vote? Councillor Matt Bell, proposing?
Yep.
Thank you. A seconder? Councillor Graham Mandel. All those in favour of accepting the minutes? Those against? Or any abstentions?
I wasn't here, so you can say either.
Yeah.
I agree with it or abstain, because I wasn't present, so I agree.
Okay.
We all voted the wrong way anyway.
Did you get those numbers right? So Councillor James, can I just get clarification? Are you voting for or abstaining?
Well, whatever you think is more appropriate, somebody was absent at the meeting, abstain really, shouldn't I? Because I wasn't here to say yea or no.
Our Assistant Town Clerk can give clarification on the matter.
Although you wasn't at the meeting, you can still declare fair,
All
true,
right.
accurate.
All right, then true and accurate, I'll vote that it's true and accurate.
Okay, so that is carried. Moving on to item 5 on the agenda, Councillor Questions. And then there's been one submitted in. Have we had any other submitted questions? So there has been one submitted question. I'm just going to find it out. So this is a question submitted by myself as a member of the committee, and the question is as follows. Following the committee's decision to prevent further fairground bookings from operating outside the Pavilion forecourt, including in conjunction with key events being planned by the council, such as the King's Coronation and November the 5th fireworks, which has resulted in losing approximately £23,500 of profit in the booking fees. How do members of the Services Committee, in particular the 5 members who voted against the proposal, propose to plug the gap, and what entertainment or activity do they propose to offer Weymouth residents and its visitors? I'll ask the Assistant Town Clerk to provide a response.
Any member of the council may submit suggestions for events or activities using a PID. However, due to current pressures on staff, it is unlikely that any PID would be able to be delivered this season.
Thank you very much. Been notified of no other questions. Councillor James, I'm not proposing on taking debate on councillor questions. Is it a new question?
It's a statement.
A statement, yeah.
Just for somebody to note that the new lockers up at the groin, there are 3 keys already missing, and the lockers are locked, and they've been missing for several days. So it looks like somebody's actually just taken the keys from the lockers.
Thank you very much, councillor James. We'll make sure that the resort team are made aware of that.
Thank you.
We're now moving on to public questions. We've been notified of 2 public questions. One is a statement. First of all, I'm going to ask Mr. Locke of the Weymouth Man Shed has asked to speak on relation to Tumbledown. Is he here?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Locke, you'd like to come forward? There you go. Councillor Lambert will lend you his microphone. You'd like to make your question?
My question is that when the meeting was held at Emmanuel Church 219 end of November, we were given the impression that the men's shed would be part of that plan. But in the months that followed, that intention sort of faded into the statement that we're not part of that plan. And what the question is, why have we become not part of that plan?
Thank you very much, Mr. Locke. So I'm just as a point of clarity, it's in relation to the use of Tumbledown by the Weymouth Man Shed, isn't it? Yes, correct. I'm going to ask the Assistant Town Clerk to give you a response.
We will be able to take this question away and get a more thorough, detailed response to yourself if you can leave your email address. However, just to make you aware that we are currently reviewing both the strategic and the operational plans of Tumbledown. So as part of those reviews, we can look at the space that we have. However, we are approached by a number of community groups that do require space at Tumbledown. So it may mean that there isn't space, but we will take that away and look. At the moment, we are at capacity with regards to the same space that we can use.
Hopefully that sort of satisfies you, that we'll get back to you on a more detailed response. I'm sure there's a couple of members on the Tumbledown board here this evening that probably talk to you also out of the meeting around how the possible use could come about. Thank you, Mr. Locke. The next question, I've got a statement here by Weymouth Carnival. Not sure who the group's coming forward. Can I ask you just to sort of introduce yourself, then make your statement?
So my name is Callum Jeffins. I'm the director and chairman for the Weymouth Carnival CIC. And my main question is now just regarding the fun fairs. Is this specifically for the 2023 season? Because obviously, if there is no fun fair for the carnival, there will be no carnival, because obviously the fun fair was a great source of income specifically towards the carnival. And I would just like to stress as well, I am also hugely disappointed in the decision from the last Services Committee. And I feel as though that there were no compromises towards every single part involved. So that would be with yourselves, Dorset Council, and Edward Danter, who does Danter's Fun Fair. So would there be a promise of having the fun fairs for next year? So thank you.
Thank Thank you very much for your question. Again, I'm going to ask the Deputy Town Clerk to provide you with a response.
Thank you. So, in terms of where the process which we are following now, following last week's service, is there has been a motion put forward to be considered at the full council meeting on the 8th of March, and then that will dictate where the forward pathway is in respect to the fund beds and where they are and how many there will be. So that will be considered next week.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your question. I do know that you obviously sent a statement in as well.
Yes.
I will ask the officers to circulate that statement to all members prior to that debate next Wednesday. And obviously you're more than welcome to also attend that full council meeting to make further representation should you wish.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask clarification on a point that's made about the loss of income or effect of not having the carnival? I wasn't aware that any income from the funfair that we received would be going towards the carnival. Is that the way I read it or heard it?
I think Councillor James obviously is not something that's been discussed by this town council because the town council there's not been a carnival whilst the town council's been in existence. But historically, the carnival, the funfair operator has made a further contribution on top of what's paid to the council to the carnival to make a contribution to the running costs.
That's what you clarified, then you, the funfair operator, when you said that, it sounded like he meant that, you know, we would be donating towards it, that's all.
Yeah. But of course, it is in members' gift to make that decision come next year.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions by members of the public? I know that youth council want to speak later on item 8, so we'll bring them in then. But there is no other questions currently on those items. No, it's okay. We'll move on to item 7, the draft bench policy, and we'll ask Michelle Williams to come on forward to give us an update.
Good evening. I was asked to look at our bench policy. Well, we don't have one. So because at the moment, the parks and the beach process their memorialisation and the maintenance of their benches differently, we've also just taken control of all the highway benches that Dorset Council held. So we are looking forward to having a bench policy which I have drafted to look at bringing everything in line so that we have one process for everything and it's all done under one control person. So my recommendation was for this committee to accept the draft policy and make it a full policy.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I'm going to open it up now to members. Do we have any comments on the policy that's before you? Okay, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I've just got a couple, I don't think the microphone's on, is it? No. There we go, is it? Anyway, we don't need it if we don't not live stream it. But I've just got a couple of comments on it. Can you have a memorial bench on the highway?
Apparently you can. You can have a bench anywhere that somebody requests one.
Okay, that's brilliant. And my other question was about what type of benches are we thinking of having? Because some places it's, you know, that would be appropriate for the really rigid sort of black ones, but other ones could be stone benches and that sort of thing.
Well, we have got some stone benches that are memorialised already. Obviously, at the moment, we'll go with the benches that we have, but when they are due to become replaced, we're looking at a more sustainable type of bench, which will have a longer lifespan.
Okay, that additional cost will come to us.
That will, well, it's covered in our new bench fees.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Taylor. Anybody else? Okay, just one point from myself then, and first of all, I really like the process flow. Makes the whole policy very clear and defines the process. And I think that's a very good use within the policy. The only request I would make is the current appendix forms for the applications. Can we get them as a digital format on our website rather than having to make residents print the current forms off and send them in?
I can develop a forms template, but I need to speak to the IT department about, because I know some people will want a paper form and some will want online, so we can look at that.
Yeah, that's brilliant to have that multiple option. I just know so many residents don't have access to printers. But do the internet via smartphones, but obviously I understand that paper is still important. But that was my only comments on that. So members, I'm going to be looking for a proposer. Councillor Bell, what's your proposal?
Proposing that we follow the recommendation.
Okay,
I'll second it.
yeah, seconded by Councillor James. All those in favour of accepting the policy, show of hands. Looks unanimous, which, thank you very much. Thank you, Michelle. Move swiftly on to item 8 this evening, which is the proposals to celebrate the King's Coronation and to introduce Charlie Shepherd, our events manager. So just a point on that, after Charlie's introduced the item, we're going to bring the members of the Youth Council forward who have indicated they wish to speak.
Okay, good evening. Following the announcement nationally of the plans for the weekend for the coronation in May, officers have come together with some suggested options of how Weymouth could obviously celebrate this special occasion. They are obviously listed within the report. These include coronation, community concert on the beach, fireworks, light production. We also talk about the big help out, which is planned for the Monday the 8th. And also just to recap, prior to this meeting, I think it was in December, members already agreed to the Trees for Local Schools project. And you may have seen that 11 schools within the Weymouth area have already taken up to be part of the scheme, and even the trees were delivered to them over the last couple of weeks. And we've also made funds available for community groups, charities, organisations to apply to the council for smaller grants to have community events for the celebration over this weekend too. So as I say, now obviously open up for members to debate as to which items or which events they might like to see the town council organising over the coronation weekend.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Would the youth council like to come forward and just make their comments, and then we're opening up wider?
As a youth council, we've come up with ideas of a stage on the beach that can be used for school bands, choirs, and local performing arts groups. Yeah. Thank you.
I think that will be first on the Saturday when there's not anything planned.
Yeah. So the assistant town clerk just said about possibly using the stage on the Saturday, isn't it, for that as an additional use? Brilliant. Thank you very much, Daniel, for coming and making those points on behalf of the Youth Council, and it's your third service committee now, so it's really good to see you guys here. You're becoming part of the set, it's brilliant. Members, I'm opening it up to the floor. Any comments or suggestions? Councillor James.
Are we talking on the 7th for these events, not on the actual day of the coronation? Is that what you're saying?
So what we've looked at the national obviously programme of events. So on the Saturday, the 6th of May, that's the coronation service at Westminster. So we've suggested no events. However, obviously if members choose, And then we've based a lot around Sunday, which is when the national programme seems to be taking more.
Right, yeah, that's what, I want to know that, because I actually like option B, but I also like option C, and I also like option E. So you've got a bit of everything there. You've got a light projection display, which would be quite good. You've got fireworks just for Weymouth, and the busking on the prom, which does that work out cheaper to have than the actual stage and all the other bit? I don't know, but I like the busking on the prom idea, but also I like this fireworks idea. So depends what other members think, what they feel we can afford to do.
Members, it might be useful just at this point to allude to what sort of budget we've actually got. I'm going to ask the Deputy Town Clerk to give us some sort of indication.
Okay, Chair. The members will recall that they have previously agreed the grants and the coronation trees, which amounted to £4,000, which is to come out of the services events budget, Chair, which originally stood at 25,000, so that leaves 21,000 left for other events.
And that's a fair old amount, but it'd be interesting what everyone else thinks, but I don't know. I like all of them, but can't do all of them. I like the busking bit.
So we've got Councillor Ruse next, and then Councillor Dickinson.
I'm going to assume that we can't have all the options. And if we can't have all the options, I think maybe in some ways, because the youth council already wanting to do something involving the stage and a concert, maybe we go more in that direction. I like the idea, Christine, of buskers, but sometimes that can be quite messy when it comes to noise as you're walking down a street, especially if they're too close to each other. But having a stage where it's got a programme might draw people into one area, which is kind of nice and a bit more directed. But it would be nice to know just how many options can we have? Can we have it all? It'd be nice to know.
Charlie, you got any response on that?
Well, you probably could have it all if the budget was available. I think if you're having a stage on the beach, you wouldn't want to have buskers on the prom at the same time, because you would want to focus more on the stage and working with the local groups. But that's not to say that you couldn't have buskers on another day, either over that weekend, or we could look to do that another time, say. Obviously the stage on the beach is the most expensive, because obviously of the infrastructure and bringing in the stage, the sound and lighting, etc. So obviously the firework display, and then to have the light projection, they kind of link together. Or perhaps if you've got the stage on the beach, you might not, I don't know, there's so many decisions that you can make. You could either end with the fireworks, or you could end with some light projection, or both. As we said, there is 21 obviously available, but it's obviously down to members to decide how they would like to spend that, and whether they want to spend it all as part of the King's Coronation weekend, or whether save some for maybe projects further on throughout the season.
So if I could, can I respond to that?
Yeah.
Just quickly. So my thoughts are that weekend, I expect a lot of musicians and bands would be booked up and busy. So getting them actually to be available for stuff in the day might be quite hard pressing. I wonder if having the option of the stage above the buskers, maybe for the Saturday and Sunday, would look a bit more professional, and mean that the acts that we have, we know that we can actually nail down and have a proper sort of programme for people to come and see. I don't know,
the stage would definitely be as a booking system, and following agreement, if that's the decision that's made, I would obviously proactively go out to the contacts that I know to put them in, slots. And we can also send out messages through social media, through contacts for people to apply to us, and they would be in allocated time slots rather than just people. So we could program it and we could publicise the programme within that, say.
So, can I just ask on the cost? Because I have this real bugbear where sometimes people expect musicians to perform for free.
So
And with the busking being an expectation that people are hoping that donations would be made. But if they're actually performing on a stage, they would be paid performers, which is a bit more courteous to the effort and the work that musicians put in.
So within the costings for the stage on the beach, we have made an allocation to cover acts and bands, so there is some provision made, obviously, for that for the acts to be paid. But I probably saw busking, if you went down that option, would be that people could obviously perhaps sell their CDs or wares on the seafront as part of their allocated area zone only, rather than spread out along.
That's all I'm gonna ask.
So-
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Roos. Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you very much, Chair. I've got a couple of questions. Ian, is there any government funding coming down or Dorset Council funding coming down? So when I saw in the press that the councils could apply to the government for money, we didn't.
There hasn't been any avenue for towns and parishes to, which we've been notified of, that we could apply for that. It's not to say that there isn't streams for the principal authorities, which is just the next layers up.
So if you could get in touch with Dorset Council, it'd be a great help. I see option D, it says the firework display will take place in Portland Harbour, not in Weymouth Bay.
So there's option C, is a firework display on Weymouth seafront. Option D, I think it was explored at a previous services meeting, perhaps Portland Town Council or Tripwell Town Council might like to work with us. So we've had an initial conversation with Portland Town Council as to their thoughts about supporting a display. Obviously, if they wanted to support, they would prefer the display to take place where their residents could see it as well. So that's why it suggests Portland Harbour Breakwater for option D, but option C remains at Weymouth seafront.
Yeah. And the other thing, the busking, of course, could take place in Brewers Square. So you could have a joint thing where the busking could take place rather than on the promenade, clashing with the stage. The busking could be set up within the Brewery Square.
Yes, we could obviously look into other sites around the town. Obviously, that would be in consultation with Dorset Councils and the highways team, because obviously, Broski is the highways section. So,
Thank you, Charles.
okay.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dickinson. Councillor Taylor next.
Right, option A I like, but I'm very concerned about it because it's only 8 weeks, 8 or 9 weeks. And I think to start looking at getting bands, I think we've basically left it awfully late. Having been involved as Tia has with the music scene, you're booked up for a couple of years in advance if the band's really good. So have you done any work as to who is available for this?
I haven't contacted any bands or community choirs or organisations as of yet. Until we got the go ahead, no requests have been made locally. However, I would be confident to exercise every avenue to book the bands. And obviously, one of the lines within the reports suggests that perhaps obviously maybe a few members might want to come together to obviously, help look to like the headline act as well, say, of what that should be for the, the last band of the evening, so. just to put the thoughts really around the table, of which direction, so.
Okay, I think the budget of 1,500 for the acts is really low.
Okay.
Knowing what I've charged, the bands I've been involved in the past, that isn't going to go very far at all. Don't take this the wrong way. I think it's brilliant that some of the youth council and some of the younger people in the town want to come in, but we ought to be able to pay you as well. Just because you're young doesn't mean that we shouldn't pay you. So as far as I'm concerned, I think we can get something really good going around this, but there has to be a thing that, as far as I'm concerned, you don't do it for nothing, because you've got all your kit, your time and everything else to think about. I love busking. I don't think it's quite appropriate for this event, because I think the town will be absolutely packed and it's just too much. But I think busking generally is really good, and I'd love to encourage more buskers. Can we look at some time about making some permanent busking pitches in town? Certainly along the Esplanade, I think that would be an excellent idea and a really good an additional thing for our town, particularly as you're coming out of season a little bit. Although we have to be reminded that buskers are there, to make money, and they're not going to want to sit there and play to themselves all day. I quite like fireworks, but I understand the issues of putting fireworks on. So I'm pretty ambivalent. I don't like the idea of a light projection display, simply because there's a little line in there that says a modest light art projections display. And I'm a little bit concerned about that, because when you've got a modest display, normally means that we haven't got an awful lot. And if we're not careful, as the end of the day, that we've had celebrations all day, it's going to cause a problem from a reputational point of view. But that's my view on the first day. Thank you.
Councillor Lambert next, because I've got a couple here to speak, but they're coming in for a second time. Will everyone have the opportunity first? Councillor Lambert.
Thanks, Chair. You won't be surprised to know that I'm going to talk about fireworks. I'm coming up for my second coronation, and most of you here will be at your first coronation. So I think it should be pretty special. I'm not a royalist, but I think it should be pretty special. And there is a problem as far as I'm concerned over fireworks, and that is that over the summer we have them week in, week out, every flipping Monday they're there, these blooming fireworks, which I'm not happy about, as you know. But I have said clearly that I'm in favour of fireworks for bonfire night, which is a once in a year celebratory event. I think seasonal things are very important. They're as important as eating turnips, for example.
That's sweet.
So, not everybody would agree. So, I'm actually going to possibly shock a few people, because I'm going to pitch very, very strongly for option D, because I think it's a brilliant idea. It will be different if it's in Portland Harbour. It won't be the same old thing where we all go around to the front of Weymouth, and we're cooperating with our neighbours, and I think that is really important. I think that it is really what our King is trying to achieve, and get our communities working together. So I do hope that that will take place. But those who don't understand my logic goes, which has been pointed out to me by members of the Service Committee previously, that if we don't have fireworks, then all and sundry will be having their own fireworks, and there's the danger that the overall sum total fireworks will exceed what is being done. I'm unhappy that firework detritus will end up in the sea, but I'm trying to be pragmatic here. So if Portland Town Council go along with this, which I hope they will, then I think this is a really good idea, and well done whoever came up with it. Thank you very much.
The assistant town clerk's just got a point on option D, I believe.
So I've been in liaison with Portland Town Clerk, and they have a services committee next week, and they're going to be discussing this option, a similar option at their services committee next week. But they do have concerns around cost of fireworks during the cost of living crisis and also the CE impact.
Yeah, can I just come back on that then? However, if we did make, if this committee felt it was worthwhile going ahead, then that, you know, that might encourage them. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Young.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to make an observation here that whilst I think it's a really good idea that we could have cooperative fireworks with Portland, I'm struggling to think where you could actually put a barge. Because having seen Weymouth fireworks from, say, Castle Cove Beach, they're rather a long way away. And even if we put the barge really by the northern entrance there, the fireworks are going to seem a long way away from both Weymouth and Portland. And I think that could be the limiting factor with the idea of the joint fireworks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Young. Councillor James.
Great, thank you. Actually, going back on what I said, I like the idea if the youth council think the option A would be good with the stage and everything else, and looking at the costs. I suppose it amounts up similar to if you have 2 or 3 options lumped together. So I'd be quite happy to vote for that. The busking, I was going to say the same as Councillor Taylor, that we need to look at some busking pitches in other places, and we could do that at any other time of the year. It doesn't have to be at the same time. But also, yes, we could make, if it's down to the south side, South Harbour group that work along the piers and everything else, and we are Weymouth, if they choose to do something over the south side of the harbour, then that's down to them. I like option C. I think we should still go for a fireworks display, but not necessarily at that time. I think maybe in the summer, like Councillor Lambert said, we have fireworks, so keep the fireworks to maybe the summer. The light projection display, I think that could be the other thing that would work with the stage. I know Councillor Taylor's got a misgivings about that, but I think if we could be shown some other demonstrations or where other towns have done it to see what it would actually look like and whether it would be value for money and as good as it sounds, I would like to do that with the stage. But I definitely don't want to do option D, and that's nothing against Portland, but I just think, like Councillor Taylor's just said, and Councillor just said, yeah, I'm sorry, that where the barge would be in Portland Harbour, that's quite a big harbour. That's 4 miles right the way around that harbour, because I've rowed it and I know how long it takes. So to have it over in Portland Harbour, I think it would be a disadvantage to a lot of our residents, because it'd be, where would they go to watch? Would they go up the north to watch it? Would they drive over to Portland to watch it? Again, it's still weighing up the traffic option, so I think we should have our own fireworks display, let Portland Council do their whatever they want to do. So I vote for option A, the stage, and I would vote for option E, the light projection. Fireworks we can have any other time if wanted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor James. Councillor Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Looking at the cost of hiring the stage, I think we ought to be utilising the stage as much as possible over the course of the weekend. Be that buskers, choirs, groups, whatever. So I think to get best value for money for that would be that. I quite like the fireworks. Councillor Lambert, I was around at the last, not just at the last coronation, I was about 4.5 months old, I think. Yeah, so I'd like to see some fireworks. I think fireworks will be just about popping up all over the country. And as for putting them nearer to Portland, let's not kid ourselves. As soon as we put fireworks on, half of Portland jumps on the number 1, half of Chick will jump on the number 8, and they all come into town on the bus and watch our fireworks. So there you go.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brooks. Councillor Rouge, you want to come back in?
I want to make a proposal.
Before you make a proposal, I'm just going to make sure no one else wants to speak. Councillor Toft.
I just I'd just like to say that option A has my approval. I agree with the busking that we need to have lots of busking pitches elsewhere in town anyway, because it's a money maker. And the fireworks, nobody said whether anybody's actually asked Port and Port if they would allow fireworks. They have. That was okay. Personally, I go with Port and Harbour because I can just look at them out the window, so that would be certainly fine. But that's not. You know, I do agree that most people would probably prefer to see them in the bay because it's better viewing, and I can't think where you would actually, apart from all the way along the Rodwell Trail, I can't see where people would position themselves to actually see them. And a lot of people would feel they were being shortchanged if they were Weymouth residents and they didn't get to see them because they were important. So.
Thank you very much, Councillor Toft. Councillor Tewkesbury and then Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a quick one. It says on the Saturday 6th of May, there's no events organised at all by Town Council, but if schools and choir groups want to use that stage on that Saturday, could they use that? Or is that no events going to be organised at all?
The costings in the report were for a stage for one day, although the stage would have to come in, possibly prior to the bank holiday taken away. So the stage would be there. Obviously, what it doesn't accommodate is for obviously staffing and security, etc. So there would be slight increase in cost if you would like the stage to operate for the 3 days rather than just the one. So.
Councillor.
Yeah, Councillor Bell and Councillor Wakeling.
Thank you, Chair. I'm leaning towards the option of the stage on the beach. I think with the youth council talking about sort of extending the use of that, I think that becomes a very effective use of money. It is a big event. I'm not the biggest royal supporter myself, but I can see that this is the sort of thing that brings communities together. It's what we need to be encouraging. So I'm strongly for option A, with the premise that it's made use of on the Saturday as well, so we make it a whole weekend event. Are there any times on that Saturday where guidance from whoever's in charge of these things centrally is saying we can't do things between certain times out of respect to anything? Are there any stipulations? In which case, you know, making use of that across 2 days to me sounds fantastic. And the idea from the youth council of getting, you know, local groups involved from all age ranges, bringing the whole community together is exactly what's needed, because it's this nation building idea, isn't it? Getting everyone out, everyone together. That's the one for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bell. Councillor Wakeling.
Thank you, Chair. The first question is, have we considered a big screen on the Saturday to view the coronation on the beach? I would imagine you could have quite a fantastic picnic with a big screen and hundreds of people came to watch the coronation on the beach. It could wash out, but I think for a once in a lifetime day, that's worth exploring. If you're going to do an event on the beach, consider selling concessions or stalls on it, because you could then also offset the cost of the stage and the entertainment by having some local bars selling their wares as well. And personally, I would lean towards the concert and the firework display, maybe a bigger firework display. I think a 6K is our regular Monday night thing. Maybe a 9K display would be, you see Graham shaking his head, but it would be more spectacular.
Sorry, Councillor Wakeling, what you didn't see was the Chair of Finance and Governance face behind you.
Didn't we have some big screens during the Olympics, but they were sponsored by firms? Didn't we? Sure we did.
I think that would have been a local sort of operation.
It might have been, but is there no chance of getting a big screen company to sponsor or?
Yeah. Councillor Bell, you wanted to come back in?
Yes, quick question. I feel like we're voting on lots of options that I fully understand. The lighting display, I'm not really sure what that looks like. Do we have any sort of videos from the provider or anything we can view to base a judgment on?
Yes, we do. The gentleman approached the town council. Unfortunately, I wasn't available to see what he was offering, but some of the officers would be able to have that information and show you. It's just a case of obviously looking and working within the seafront environment of where the projection would take place. So.
So just coming in on that point is, over the Christmas period, the bid did a projection on Pilgrim House by the same artist. And also you need to consider if it would be possible, because you need street lights, so you need a darker canvas. So I think you'd have to think of a very good place which isn't fully illuminated.
Okay, I'm gonna sort of try and sum up and look for the recommendations, but before I do, just my views and points on this. I think it's important that the committee remember the brief we sent officers away to look at with this, back in December, I think it was, and that was a single community event. We've already made provision through the community grants for community groups to have their own events in their own communities, such as Hope Square, and I know we're looking at one in Westham and Co. So we've already made that available for smaller communities to hold events. So I wouldn't want us to detract and look to start to break out now to put different things on different areas. You know, our brief to the officers was a single event. I see probably two of these options together will work really well, and in my opinion, that is the community concert on the beach and the fireworks afterwards, because we can have a pause on the concert, do the fireworks, finish with a headline act. That will provide entertainment still in the town, which will slow the dispersal of traffic as well. So not everyone will be rushing off at once as they do with the fireworks. So I think those two options work really well. I have some concerns around a joint display with Portland, mainly around the infrastructure that's in place. In Weymouth, we have all the provisions to cater for that many people. When you start to look at Portland, there's not the infrastructure in place for parking. There's not many local businesses around that area. Yes, there's a few at the Nove. Yes, there's a few on the Cheddar Beach and a few in Castletown. But as a whole, the biggest economic impact and benefit of fireworks is in the town centre, where all the businesses on the seafront can benefit from that sort of activity. Light projections, I've never seen one yet that makes me think, wow, and agree. I don't think you get a dark enough canvas on Weymouth seafront. And last of all, I think the Monday big help out that no one else yet in the committee's mentioned is a must. I think that's something that King is really pushing for this to become a big success. So I think that we should look at the Monday the 8th big help out and make £1,000 grant scheme available to support communities in activities. So I'm in favour personally of the option A, and if needs be, if we can get a full programme working with the Youth Council, and we can look at using it also on the Saturday, I wouldn't be averse to that. So, you know, we can maximise the use of the stage when it's there. I understand there's some additional costs for lighting and sound and stewards for the additional hours if we were to use it on the Saturday. But maybe a couple of hours on the Saturday evening may be of benefit. Should we manage to get a full programme, which I've got no worry in that being achieved. I think there's so many groups that will want to be part of this historic celebration, that we're actually inundated with requests. Going to move over, Councillor Furman, your name's down in your little book. Did you want to say something?
My little book.
Teacher's book.
Yeah, Councillor Rose, I knew you were just about to make a proposal. Could I make one, then you kind of chop it down, because I'm just going to sort of throw everything out there so we can get this sort of.
You don't know what my proposal is.
I'll just see.
I might have nailed it.
Okay then.
I can see.
Did you want to comment before?
I mean, yeah, just in general, members, I think there's loads of really good ideas here. There is enough time in our calendar to do all of these things. And I'm very much of the opinion, you know, go big or go home. It is something that we should really make an effort for. And though the chair of finance and governance of the bank will not like this, but if we've got budgeted money to spend, let's spend it. Let's do something. I mean, we have had a trawler race for years in May. You know, the bank holiday Mondays aren't what they used to be. This could be a good trigger point for bringing something back to Weymouth in May. So I've kind of written down like Saturday, you know, if we can get a screen on the beach and then have buskers along afterwards, then have fireworks over at Portland Saturday night, then have the stage, Sunday, then I finish with fireworks. I'm not into the light show. Take £2 from the light show. Let's spend an extra £2 and give the youth council the stage on Monday and apply that £2 to there. It's money spending. I'm not wedded to particularly the fireworks at Portland, but I think I'm interested in seeing what buskers along the seafront could do after the coronation. Like I said, if it's really busy in town, let's give an offering of something, and this could be a chance to test out that busking idea that Councillor James and Councillor Taylor have raised. People are there anyway, it's going to be busy, we just need to facilitate that. And then with the stage on the Sunday and the Monday being exclusively like a youth day, you know, that we can kind of hand over to schools, primary schools, theatre companies, whatever it is. I mean, we spoke at the youth council about not just being music, but being theatre groups and dance groups that can come and do those things. You know, really make it a celebration of our young people, and you know, it'd be better on the Monday because people on the Sunday might want to have a drink and, you know, live with a hangover the next day when they're not working. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. Councillors, I don't know what that fits in with you.
I've got it.
Oh, you got that, exactly. Thank you.
Okay then,
Thank you, Anders.
just before we move to looking for a recommendation, I've got one further question for the events manager, Charlie. And obviously, I don't think it's the right sort of event to try and get sponsorship for. But we looked at any possible catering or drinks facilities that we might be able to generate some income for down in the stage area. If that's the option we take.
I haven't looked into that at this time, due to a previous recommendation of obviously with regards to the street food. However, if that's members' views, we can obviously look to see if there is an interest of a local business having a bar or food, etc., operating from that area.
I think, you know, it's slightly different from the street food, bearing in mind it's an event. So we'll be bringing extra people in, so there will be the punters there to be catered for. So I think, you know, it might be worth it if we go down that route, looking at that option to help offset some of the costs. I am going to move now to look for a recommendation. Councillor Ruse indicated that she'd like to make one.
Okay, so I've got a proposal which is for definite support for options with paragraph. So definite support for option A, option C, and Monday the 8th, with bigger budget for A involving more investigation into cost and sponsorship routes, looking at supporting the Youth Council to do something and a report back on how things are going at the next Services Committee, leaving flexibility around what we can actually achieve in the timescale, and to then review the opportunity to go with other options if we can. Extra options, actually, that should be.
So just to clarify.
Do you want
that,
me to send that? Sorry, I'm coming.
whilst the deputy town clerk gets that sent over to her through whichever method, I'm just going to hear out other people's options before we make a formal recommendation. Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you very much, Chair. One thing that concerns me, as you said about the brief, was for 1 day. We're now putting it to 3 days. What will the cost be for hire of a stage for 3 days? We don't know that yet. And my only concern is, while we're not getting on with it, time, which Councillor Jill Taylor said, we're going to try and get acts booked. I think we need to move forward, and I would just like to say, if we want all these things, let's leave it in Charlie's hands, let her get on with it, otherwise we're in danger of the next services meeting to give the authority to Charlie to do it. Is what date? The next service meeting. I'm just a bit worried about the timeline.
There's not time to defer this to another service meeting.
No, this is what was in the option when you said about finding out about the screen, finding out about that. Unless we say go ahead today, we're in danger of sort of like giving Charlie, oh, there's 2 weeks, get it organised. And I don't want that to fall on the officers. Let's try and give her an option tonight. That's what we want. Go ahead and do it. And get Councillor Gray to look the other way.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dickinson. I was looking just potentially for recommendations at this point, and then we can come back on those sort of comments. So I just want to check.
Well, I wanted to add things to representation.
Oh, sorry. I'm just looking for potential recommendations at the moment where the committee wants to go, and then we'll open it up for those sorts of comments. Councillor Toft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with what Councillor Roos has said, but can we tag on to the end in order to expedite matters, a ceiling on the budget? So that we don't go above it and we know that's what it is and Charlie knows what she's spending. Because otherwise somebody over there is going to be, you know, that's what I would just.
Thank you very
Seconded.
Councillor Gray. I also appreciate your enthusiasm. I must remind you, you're not a member of this committee. Councillor Toft, I absolutely agree, and it was something I would have stipulated within the recommendation, and no way should this committee be making open statements. So, Councillor Thurman, I think, also maybe has another suggestion for a proposal, and then we'll go to some sort of vote. Councillor Thurman?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I'm try and keep it simple. So I'm gonna say that, I propose that we go for the busters on the Saturday. We have the stage Sunday and Monday with fireworks to follow and a youth-led day on the Monday, and that the budget be capped at 20,000 and Charlie be left to get on with that. Do you want to have a second?
Thank you very much, Councillor Thurman. I'm trying to work the difference out between. I'm just trying to work the difference out between the two current offerings on the table, but Councillor Taylor.
Can I just ask for something really, really simple? Can we just go through the options and have a vote on each of the options? Because it's getting so messy. Some of us want fireworks, some want light things, and I'm getting totally confused. But I think if we just look at each one in turn, I think we need to stick to the budgets that are in here. But if Charlie has got a remit to think outside of that and come back to the next meeting, I want the stuff done on the beach on the Sunday. If there is enough money to go outside of the Sunday, then fine, come back and tell us what you're going to do. But I think to put open-ended budgets in is just a complete nightmare, or even a budget of 20,000 or something like that. I think that's an awful lot of money that has to be put in for one event. But can we just look at each of the options and just have a vote on each one as they are and see where we've got to?
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, okay then, yeah, no, I was hoping that one of those proposals might have just gone yes, but as we are differing slightly, I can tell from the room that starting at option E, the light projection, I'm presuming option S on the Monday, I'm just focusing on the event at the moment. Thank you very much. That was the town clerk. So moving on, option E, I'm presuming that nobody here really considers that. I don't think we find it's viable, unless anyone's speaking out. Option D is the joint firework display between us and Portland. Was there any burning desire to pursue that one from members? So,
Just have a vote.
taking votes on every option, thanks to Taylor, because we'll be here all evening and it gets very messy. I'm trying to build a recommendation. D is supported by.
Excuse me, point of order, that's what we suggested and which was seconded. So we have a vote on each of the options.
Yeah. Okay then. So you want an indicative vote, because if we take a vote and it's carried as a majority, it will then become a recommendation for the officer to act.
Yeah, we're okay with an indicative vote.
Yes.
So can we have an indicative vote on each of the options?
Yeah, so, okay, indicative vote, I'm happy to take. I didn't want to vote for a procedural point. So, E, light projection, I think we've already ruled that one off the table. There was nobody indicating that. Option D, fireworks, joint fireworks display All those members in favour of an indicative vote, please show of hands. 1. Those against option D? That's carried. Option C, which is the seafront firework display on the Sunday evening at 9:30 p.m. All those in favour, including this in a recommendation. Those against? That's one that is carried. Option B, busking on the prom.
In the town, or?
No, busking on the prom, option B is written in the paper.
I don't mind either way, but I think it's the Saturday after the coronation. That's what I'm proposing.
So what are we voting on?
So there's no financial implications on this, so we can say that there's buskers that want to perform over the weekend on the Saturday, so it doesn't interfere with our Sunday event, that's not a problem, is it?
That's the way.
However, we do need to check, as I was alluded to by the assistant town clerk, that there is bylaws in place on the seafront that may implicate that. So, however, Councillor Furman would like officers to look if we can get some busking on the prom on the Saturday, to have a supporter for that.
I'll bring the record.
As long as they don't ride in a bike.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry, members, can you raise your hands so I can see?
I might fish out my melodica to remember what they are.
That's 10 for those against, or any abstentions? 3 abstentions, that's carried as a. And then we move on last of all to a community concert on the beach. Now, members, it's worth noting, as we've alluded to here, the stage will be here for probably 4 days because of the bank holiday, with the setup and the breakdown. So any additional cost in this will be as in the operating fees, which is lighting, sound and acts. But do I have as it stands at the moment, option A to include a beach concert within a proposal, those in favour?
Should I make an amendment to the option A?
Or
is it just the
at
indicative?
the moment, the indicative, do we want a beach concert?
Thank you, Chair.
That's unanimous, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll take that separate. I'm going to take option F separate because I'm just looking at the Sunday event at the moment. So just looking currently at Sunday, because members, I am being nudged several times now that option F, which is the big help out, but we'll take that separately as a Monday activity. I'm finding that the recommendation that this committee should be making should include a community concert on the beach and should include seafront firework display on the Sunday. Now, would anyone like to make a formal proposal for the, if we stick with it at the moment, just the Sunday activities?
Can you say that again, please? Chair?
Just the Sunday, just the Sunday activities.
Concert followed by fireworks.
That's Sunday, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll propose it.
Could I, the amendment I want to make, if we stick to option A, coronation concert on the Sunday with a budget of 8,200, I would like to do what you said, put the £2,000 from the light budget into that budget to make it 10,200.
Okay, that's not allocated at the moment, so we can, you're saying that you'd like to include for the Sunday budget, a budget to run a seafront concert and fireworks, 10,000.
No, not the fireworks, just the option A, because the fireworks got its own budget of 6,000.
Yeah, the option there is, that is the option, so unless you want to extend the money available to book bands, the operating side of things is the cost there anyway, so within that, you're saying that you want to include the recommendation to say up to £3,500 for band's expenses.
Oh, well, I'm just looking at it, it says coronation concert with a budget requirement of 8,200.
did you have an idea on what that 2,000 would go towards?
I
Well,
thi-
to me, it would go towards Charlie being able to say to bands
Yeah,
about increasing,
Yeah,
increasing.
that's fine.
you can't
For
get
what
quality
council
out
takes.
of
That's fine, yeah,
coronation.
I think just so we can put in to say what that 2,000 is for.
It just gives Charlie some more money to say to a decent band, look, we can give you X.
Bands will be charging more on coronation weekend. You're looking at double their prices.
Yeah.
I know some that work, I know a couple that probably would.
Okay, members, so we're going to move forward on the recommendation. So we have a recommendation for the fireworks and the community coronation concert on the Sunday to the budget of 10,500. You said, Councillor Dickinson?
10,200.
10,200.
Do I have a proposal for that to form part of the recommendation? Councillor Dickinson, seconded by Councillor Bell. Okay. This is just on the Saturday at the moment. All those in favour of that recommendation? Sorry, Sunday, yes, losing it slightly. On the Sunday, all those in favour of that recommendation, show of hands. Those against? Or any abstentions? One abstention. So that is carried for the Saturday, this Sunday, I should have done Saturday first, that's the problem. Now, the Saturday, within this recommendation to officers, Councillor Thurman has requested that we look for buskers to perform on the Saturday afternoon after the coronation activities. You're proposing that, Councillor? Was there any other activity we wanted to include within Saturday before we move to a vote? Sorry, hang on, can I just invite speakers, got free to speak on that matter? Councillor Bell, Tewkesbury and Roos.
Saturday, we were initially talking about getting the youth involved. I know it's been Monday discussed, but I think there does need to be one of the days. So just to raise that as a point, that's what the youth council will bring up earlier. You know, we need that in the mix. So whether we want to put that Saturday or Monday, I agree with not on the Sunday, obviously, that's the main day, I can see that, but have one of them.
Okay, I'll just pick up on a few points on that. So, the event manager, Charlie has just alluded to, at the moment, we don't know what time the service is going to be. So it doesn't know what sort of time. And I personally, I'll come back on that secondly, but Councillor, Tewkesbury.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to second what Matt's just said, that obviously we've got the stage here on the beach, we've got people coming in, let's make best use of that stage on that Saturday as well. It's going to be used on the Sunday, let's use it on the Saturday as well, involving all the schools, the choirs, and all the rest of it as well. Take full advantage of it, because we're paying for it, it's there. I know we have to have lots of control, lighting, and maybe a bit more security. Let's use that, because otherwise, Saturday, on the beach, there's not going to be any activities going on, is there? So you're going to have it on the Sunday and the Monday, but nothing on the Saturday.
Councillor Roos.
On the busking, can we make that to include other areas than just the promenade, just in case it's town centre, promenade, and possibly even Brewers Square, just in case?
I just say the easy thing with the promenade, I think officers will agree, is that's our land in our control. We start opening it into town centre, we might have to apply for additional licences. But that can be explored and promoted, but I would say first of all, promote the seafront.
Yeah.
Okay, just my view on this is I want to see a full stage of quality acts, first of all, on the Sunday. I wouldn't be objecting to us allocating some budget to open the stage up on the Saturday to offer acts, any additional acts we have, but I think our priority, bearing in mind we've only got 8 weeks, should be to fill the stage up on the Sunday. We could work with the youth council to fill that up at that point. But within this recommendation for Saturday activities, if someone wants to put a figure to say there's additional funds that could be used to operate the stage on Saturday. Councillor Thurman?
Yeah, just that, so yeah, with the youth using that on Saturday, or anybody using it on Saturday, we don't know what time the coronation is. So we could be loading ourselves up, but if the coronation is at 3 o'clock, we're not given we're not given very much stage time or prime time in terms of footfall, in terms of the weather on that Saturday. So that's why I sort of lent on that Monday for the youth stuff. And alternatively, it's the same if we've got acts and stuff on that Saturday, right? I take it, yeah, you do want to use it, but however, it's something we can't work with at the moment because we just don't have the time. We don't have the time of the coronation. And of course, nobody's going to be around then unless we have the big screen that Councillor Wakeling's talked about. We'll put that on the stage if that's possible, but we're into territory I don't have expertise in.
I think you'll find a lot of the pubs and bars will be showing it as well, so there will be people around that won't be sitting at home necessarily to watch it. I mean, whether the pavilion, if he's planning the pavilion, is he putting on a bigger screen?
Okay. Again, we're now looking at sort of outside of our scope. And I think just on this, just a question I have, we've been talking about primarily the use of the youth council at this stage. I understand that the youth council's got its own budget. So they could look to sort of finance elements of this and take this out of our hands, because we've also got to remember that we are funding community events, so there'll be street parties and everything happening after the coronation. So we could be over sort of thinking this.
What is that budget?
A lot.
A lot.
So, I think our recommendation then, I'm finding on so healthy, I think Councillor Furman, I think the recommendation that we're going to be looking at here then is to encourage buskers around the seafront on Saturday to perform throughout the day, but particularly after the coronation. And should the stage need the extra capacity to host youth council-led activities, then it'd be made from their budget.
Yeah.
Is that proposed?
I wouldn't say from their budget. Yeah, exactly. It's not, I mean, it's a healthy budget for young people, but I wouldn't say for something as big as that. We shouldn't allocate their budget without them having a full meeting and them being in agreement to it. So I'd say that we should do it. We should do that.
Okay, so
with the time frame.
Yes. Do I have a recommendation then, committee?
I recommend that we, as described in option B, that we promote busking on from after the coronation.
Do we need to have after it?
Pardon?
Given that we don't know the time, do we need to have after, or can it just be across to give ourselves flexibility?
It could be during the coronation, but I'm just not sure.
I don't think anybody wants us during the coronation.
Okay, so the proposal is for busking on the prom on the Saturday, proposed by Councillor Furman. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Bell. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Sunday. We've done Sunday. Moving on to Monday. It is noted within option F that there is a request that we consider a £1,000 grant for people to provide up to £100 to support projects for the Big Help Out. Do anyone else like to make any other comments for that Monday? Councillor Furman?
Yeah, I'll make a proposal that we have, if the Saturday is not available, with a good amount of time to do the youth present, what's it called, youth, what do you want to call it, something? Youth day? I'm not calling on forward. Yeah, so I just propose that we allocate the Monday stage time to that and additional budget for it. I think around, what do we think it would be to have a youth council, to have a youth day, so the students and stuff?
Yeah, I think now that we've had this discussion, we can quickly draw up some figures and share them with yourself.
Okay.
Can we not feed that back at a later date?
Sorry, sorry, Councillor Furman, I do have a point that may help us with this, Deputy Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. Although I haven't got my little pocket calculator with me here, I believe that the 10,200 and 6,000, 80,200, which leaves 2,800 left for any remaining events. So if you allocate the £1,000, for example, that you just referred to, then that leaves 1,800 left, just so members are aware of the budget constraints which they're working in, and just to be aware that obviously that doesn't leave any funds available for any future events throughout the year.
Then I would propose that we allocate £1,800 to the youth day, if that is on the Monday or the Saturday. because it's dependent on coronation times, so I take that we could use the Saturday, but on the Monday, if Saturday's not available.
Thank you very much, Councillor Furman.
And any underspend from the Sunday can go to that as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Furman. I think, anyone wish to speak? Councillor Brooks.
Can I suggest, bearing in mind that there'll be all sorts of activities going on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, that part of the community cleanup is a big mass litter pick on Monday. Because we all know after one event on one evening or one afternoon, the amount of extra rubbish that's flying around the town, and if it's a bit breezy, it will literally fly around the town. I don't think Dorset Council will be available to do extra cleansing and that sort of thing. So if we alert all the community groups that may or may not have been involved with activities in the town to go to set points along the town, and we'll just go and tidy up after ourselves, which shouldn't cost very much, like bags.
I think that is definitely a project that we can look to facilitate between the Big Help Day, yes. Anyone else? I'm just gonna put a point out there with this additional stage funding. And I wouldn't like to set the date as a set in stone, because I'm confident after hearing what the Youth Council said at their last meeting that I attended, and I know for the direction that Charlie will look to take this event, there will be a lot of crossovers. So a lot of the stuff that the Youth Council want to look to work with local dance and theatre clubs and school performances, I'm sure Charlie's already looking at eyeing up these sorts of performers earlier on during the day and the afternoon. So I think there will be a lot of crossover, and I think it would be good for the Youth Council to work with the events team to facilitate that. And I don't think there'll be the major need for the additional day, because realistically, when you look at this and being in these involved in these sorts of events before, there probably isn't enough there with that £1,700 recommendation to run the stage lighting and sound and security. That will be extremely tight, bearing in mind you also need first aid provision within that as well. So I think we've allocated additional funding to the Saturday performances. Sunday. I think we've got this, got good right hand here to help me. So I would say that only if Councillor Furman wants to go ahead with that proposal, I should say that it's only if we feel that the whole community haven't had a chance to be represented on the stage on the Sunday, that we look to extend that, but I think the finances will be tight with the additional that's already been allocated.
Do you want me to fight for it or not? Okay, yeah, I'll make that proposal. I'll stand on it.
So can you reiterate your proposal, please?
Yeah, so it's to have an additional day at the stage set aside for the Youth Council, which incorporate the leftover budget of 1,800, and any underspend from any of the other activities be applied to that as well.
Emma, your proposal for the Monday also includes the £1,000 for the Big Help project.
Yeah.
We'll just have.
So sorry, Councillor Bruce, just going to take this now. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Bell? Is everyone clear on that recommendation?
So that's recommendation F, what you just said.
No.
So you're altering option A, which we voted on.
Yeah.
So that, an additional day should be coming, aren't we voting on option F?
It'd be D, wouldn't it? Option D.
No, option F.
We're doing a new one.
Just be its own point.
To incorporate the grant.
Yeah.
From option F.
Yeah, so just to point out that, Councillor Dickinson, that is not a recommendation, so it's moved. These are officer recommendations. So the recommendation that has been made by Councillor Furman isn't an amendment. It's not anything to do with that paper. It's a recommendation he's proposed to the committee. So it doesn't matter what's written up there then.
Well, I was just following it up there, was being put as alternate, and I thought we'd already voted on that, so this is another total.
Yeah, so this is a new recommendation as part of this agenda item. So that is proposed and seconded by Councillor Bell. Those in favour, show of hands. Seven for those against. One, and those abstaining. 4 abstentions, so that is carried.
It's okay, we'll have everyone do karaoke on Saturday and save loads of money.
So-
The council said I've got to fight for it, so we've got some responsibility now.
Thank you very much. That completes this item on the agenda. So we've got 3 days of fantastic activity ahead of the King's Coronation. Just to check, obviously, this is going to be quite a big little project on a tight timeframe. Was there any members that did want to get involved and work with Charlie on this and look at booking acts and sourcing acts? Was there any or indications? Sorry, just to keep a little bit order. So Councillor James, you're happy to? Councillor James, you said?
I just said I sent an email
You
to
sent an
Charlie
email,
about a
okay.
band that
Yeah.
might be available.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're available, but also a band called Ghosts, etc.
Okay, was it, I'm looking, Councillor Roos?
Yeah, I've got loads of Facebook groups where music specifically aimed at local musicians, so I can ask.
So you put out on that, okay? And Councillor Furness can help you for Councillor Communications, so there's a couple there helping, and obviously members between your own networks, if you can promote that this space is available to showcase themselves, please do. Right, moving on to item 9 on the agenda, which is the application for the free use of car parks, and it's over to our event manager, Charlie Shepherd, once again.
Okay, as at the previous services committee, we discussed the 4 dates which are granted from Dorset Council to the Weymouth Town Council, which can be used in connection with events. We went out to the public and we've received 9 requests to consider, which are listed within the documentation, and also the full applications, I think, are included in one of the appendices as well. So so we've also, sorry, I was just catching up on the pod. As obviously it's ultimately granted by Dorset Council, we've taken a view from Dorset Council, and they considered that the armed forces falls under the policy, so would the sea feast, beach motocross, Christmas lights, the rugby tops, however, that's a niche event, say, and the other who have applied, it's felt that it doesn't really sit under the Dorset Council policy. So obviously we'll open it to members' discussion as to which events they would like to allocate to the free parking. Bearing in mind there's only 4 days and there's a number of events that have applied.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Just going to check with the operations manager, Tony, there's nothing else to.
That's fine, yeah.
Going to open this up then, Councillor Roos.
Looking at the recommendation, I agree with most of the ones that are listed except for the Dorset Seafood Festival. I think that one just doesn't sit comfortably with me because they make a lot of profits themselves that day, enough to hire the car park themselves instead of using days that were allocated. So I don't know whether if that's an extra day or one to be removed because it's only 4 days. But that's the only one that I'm a bit kind of not comfortable with.
Yeah.
Councillor James?
I'd actually agree with that, because they make a bit of money out of it, and obviously I'm gonna agree with the armed forces and the beach cross, motocross, the Christmas lights, so, yeah, I see best, since they've moved it, they're making money out of what they're doing, you know, they shouldn't profit any more out of taxpayers locally.
Thank you very much. Councillor Furman.
Thank you, Chairman. So just off of that list, I agree with those sentiments about the Seafood Festival. Thank you, Councillor James Rees. I would also say the same for the Rugby Tots. Rugby Tots is a very, very high-priced children's activity. So much so, and I can see Councillor Bell agreeing, probably may have taken his children there and realised the second mortgage was coming in.
I have no idea what it is.
It's kids rugby, it's an excellent, but
Okay.
it's a franchise, I believe it's a franchise, it's a business. And for the same reasons that we're not giving Seafood Fest, I don't think we should do that for profit making. If there had been more applications that were suitable, I could have had a conversation in line with Councillor James about the armed forces, because it's for a smaller, quite a bit smaller time of the day. And if there was an organisation that wanted all day that maybe got better use, I'd go that way, but there isn't. So I'm really happy with the armed forces, the beach motocross, Christmas lights, and if we don't just allocate one for the 4th day, I'm not against that, it doesn't mean we have to, or perhaps there might be something later in the year that comes up in terms of a community organisation. Yeah, that's where I'm sort of at with it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Furman. Just want a point of clarity on a comment you made there around the Armed Forces Parade. I understand they use it for the majority of the day before court with the hard thing. I think the event you referred to was Remembrance Sunday.
Oh, I beg your pardon, yes, I redact that. Sorry, apologise, guys.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lambert.
Thanks, Chair. It's just my night today, isn't it? Fireworks and free car parking all in one go. So, you all do know my views, and we are in fact I'm taking this to the CEE group for some alternative views as well as my own. But I do just remind, excuse me, councillors, of the impact assessment where we have, and if it could be shown, please, thank you very much. We have a red warning on the of negative implications. I accept that this is going to go ahead. I accept that as things stand at the moment, we're going to ignore those negative implications. I'm sure officers will do whatever they can in terms of encouragement, but encouragement on one hand, and giving basically a cash incentive to car drivers is a problem which I shall raise with the CEE working group. In terms of trying to help this group go forward, my view is that the CFES is not appropriate. And given what Councillor Furman has told me about Rugby Tots, which I didn't know about, if it's in the same category, I don't think we should be supporting money-making enterprises with this. My particular beef with the CFES one is that people can't even get to see it because it's hidden away. It's got no element of a community event. I guess if Rugby Tots was on the beach, it might put it in a slightly different category that people could enjoy watching it, but I wouldn't support either of those. So, but because of my principled stance on CEE, I will be voting against this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lambert. Councillor Bell.
As Councillor Furman alluded to, I do have a good understanding of the Rugby Tots situation. So my daughter enjoyed it a great deal, but it is pricey, and they're flogging merchandise in my emails very frequently. They are very much a profit-making organisation. I think there is an element on that day. I was looking up on the way across this evening, and there is an element of sort of free activities within that, but they are very much a profit-making organisation. Brilliant organisation, but profit-making. I also think that 27th of August, we are still in the school summer holidays. I don't think we need to be encouraging people to drive into our town centre. I'm kind of with Councillor Lambert on this one. I think, you know, we've got the park and ride outside. I don't
personally feel comfortable encouraging people to drive into our town centre. I think that's something we've got to move away from. So I'd be, I think agreeing with Councillor Lambert in many ways, I would be taking away B and C. I can see the justification for A, D and E, and I can support those. But I think B and C would be the ones that I would let go. I know that leaves us 1 day spare. I've got no problem with that. I think 3 days, fine. My view.
Thank you very much, Councillor Taylor, then Councillor Dickinson.
I think everything's been said that I wanted to say, so don't worry.
Councillor Dickinson.
You're too kind, Chairman. I'm all for the Remembrance Sunday being in there, because there's an awful lot of elderly people that come down. There's wheelchairs, access, and they need somewhere to park. So in 2022, the 4 days, I'd like to say that we go again in 2023, which is the Armed Forces Service and Parade, the Beach Motocross, Remembrance Sunday, and the Christmas lights switch on. I would also, if I could, Chair, ask Tony and Charlie, the Coronation Day on the Sunday, could you ask Dorset Council, come on, it's a one-off event, free parking for Weymouth.
No.
We can ask,
Yeah.
however, they would suggest it would have to come out of one of the 4 days.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You say, no, not out of the 4 days. This is a one-off event. Like I'm with Councillor Lambert. It's got to be a big day, a big event for Weymouth on the seafront. And I think it will be really good. So really hammer them.
I can do that, and also obviously if there's any Dorset councillor double hatters, then they can obviously give that support as well.
Yeah,
So-
please do. And like I say, really ram it home.
Okay, thank you very much. I think both myself and Councillor Gray are nominating Councillor Taylor as the other double hat to take that challenge on, because I think it's an impossible task.
Nothing's
Good luck.
impossible.
No, I'm not having that nomination again.
Councillor Wakeling.
Thank you. I just have a question. One of the events that does not meet the policy is apparently the National Squib Sailing Championships, which I think is a nautical town, is actually quite a good event. And I would, personally, I would like to have seen that on the shortlist. So my question is really, why is that not a suitable event?
It's because the squib is 5 days, obviously, then we're possibly just allocating one of the 5 days, so it's the clear messaging across to the competitors that they only have the free parking on one of the days, not all of the days. I don't know if Tony's got any other further comments, because you obviously were involved in a discussion with Dorset Council.
Yeah, just to say, I think Dorset Council were probably looking in terms of maximum economic impact for the town, and felt that the National Squib Championships wouldn't have that impact.
Thank you very much, Tony. Councillor James, do you want to come back in?
No one's coming in, well, there is one. Yeah, I was going to actually say what Councillor Dickinson said. I think probably Remembrance Day would be a good one, because like you said, there's a lot of elderly disabled. And I'd also like to agree that maybe we should give Dorset Council a bit of a shock and say that we'd like perhaps Coronation Sunday as a free parking day. We can but ask, they can only say no, but if we don't ask, we don't get. And yeah, I get all this business that people don't want cars coming into the town, but unfortunately we have a lot of people that are disabled, families that are, you know, they can't just all hop on a bus. There's no buses anyway, and they're expensive, so we're going to have to put up with the fact that people might want to drive into town.
Councillor Furman.
Councillors, are you making a proposal on that?
I will do if it speed things up, you know.
I'm just a point of thing, but if we, because I like that we're asking for the coronation, but I'm just thinking if we can't, if they won't do that, could we have it as the 4th day? And if they won't give us that, then we have Remembrance as the backup, so we kind of, you know, we're covered for both of those. So ideally, we'd like 5, but if we can't have it, then we'll have the coronation, but if they don't give us the, you know, the coronation as a different one, then we'll have remembrance. So it kind of, you know.
I'd like to ask Charlie's thoughts on that, she was shaking her head.
I was only shaking my head because obviously what Alex alluded to at the end of the statement was the fact that obviously the fall would be the coronation on the, again, we need to pick one day, clear day, it's either the Sunday or the Monday, the Sunday. And if they weren't to set that, then obviously we can include remembrance. So we can only ask. I don't think that they will extend it over the 5 days. I think they will still say 4 days, because remember, this policy is town and parish wide across Dorset. So they can give Weymouth 5 days, but other areas 4 days.
Yeah, but other parishes might all, if you whip them up, Charlie.
Again, with extra support from any double hatters in the room would be much appreciated.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's try and steer us onto a vote here now. But before I do, members, I just want to point out this, as I do every year, much as Councillor Lambert brings up the green element. I can remind members that it is in your gift, and particularly yours, Councillor Lambert, that we can decide, and I think as per the Dorset Council policy, that we choose events that need the land to host the events, rather than providing free parking for its punters. It's always been a view of mine that we should be looking to support organisations that need this financial support to run the event, that brings more people into town than offering free parking to those that can afford to run the vehicle. So if we were looking at that mindset, then we would actually be looking at the Armed Forces Service Parade, because the land is used as part of the infrastructure of the event for the military vehicles. Motocross, because they don't offer free parking for its punters, that's used for the pits. And again, so if we were going to take that tax members, that's the 2 events I would be looking to support on a recommendation. But I am now going to call for a recommendation to be made. Do I have anyone willing to do that?
Taking them separately or all together?
I'm looking for someone to make a recommendation on what they want to propose.
Recommendation that we go with the same 4 events of last year, and ask Charlie to really push home the coronation day.
Okay, do I have a seconder on that? And I'll open to debate. Councillor Tewkesbury. Do I have anyone that wishes to speak to that recommendation? I would. Councillor Brooks.
And also, I agree with what has been said, but also another requirement, I think, is so that we can extend the season. So motocross is in October, the light switch on is in November, remembrance is in November, and apart from the celebration of the armed forces, the rest are big events which attract lots of people, which in effect are extending the season and around the city.
Very much. I would actually speak against that recommendation. I think the committee was very vocal at the last meeting on this, that the Remembrance Sunday, whilst it's a very important service that we run, only lasts for an hour and a half. So and that's the only time that we offer the free parking during that service. I would be more comfortable, I don't know how members feel, that if we've removed that from a recommendation and say by September's services committee, we still haven't found the 4th event, then yes, we're applying for that. But we could have an organisation come forward and say, I want to run an event in one of the car parks in September, October time, and I might estimate bringing in 50 to 60,000 people into the town. But it's only viable if I can have free use of the land. I wouldn't want to prevent that. Same thing as well, we did set a process, and remembrance wasn't put forward in that process in these recommendations at all. So I couldn't support the recommendation as it stands at the moment, because I don't think we're getting bang for our buck, and the best the use currently on Remembrance Sunday service, whilst there could be others out there. Councillor Bell?
Given that Remembrance Sunday wasn't on the original 5 options, could we flip it so that on point F, Coronation is the priority with Remembrance as the backup? So the other way around, because you're more likely to have people in the car parks for an extended period of time and in town, the Coronation and Remembrance. Is that feasible?
It is feasible, but again, I think I'd be opposed to that, because I think the fact that we're putting on this large scale event, we're going to be bringing people into the town. We don't need to offer them free parking. If Dorset Council want to give that to us, absolutely we'll have it, but to use one of our policies when we're putting an event on and we don't need that free parking, is taken away from an organisation that does, and I think, that needs to be key here. Okay, so I do have a proposal and seconder at the moment. Would anyone else like to speak to that recommendation that's been proposed?
I'm happy to take Remembrance Sunday night out now, because there is only going to be a short period of time. I suppose people arrive here sort of around 10ish. By the time they've done what they've got to do, normally by about 2 o'clock, most of them will go home and move their cars or.
So, Councillor, you're going to remove your support as
Yeah, much
seconder?
as I'd love to see it, because there will be people that if they're disabled, they're going to be places they can park for free. So leave that for another, but like you say, if somebody else comes along with another event that they want to put on that is,
So at the moment now, the proposal stands without a seconder. Do I have a seconder for Councillor Dickinson's proposal? Sorry, I'm sorry, I thought it was Councillor James, I do apologise, so.
So we're taking it out, yeah.
Sorry, Councillor James, I got confused, I thought you seconded Councillor Dickinson's proposal, it was Councillor Tewkesbury. So unless anyone else wishes to speak or make an amendment to the proposal, Councillor Brooks.
Do we need to find 4 tonight?
No.
Right. So let's just go with the 3.
Three, yeah.
I want to pass 3.
You're going to make an amendment.
And that's what I was saying,
So, okay, sounds.
Then, yeah.
So do we have an amendment then to the proposal, which is to remove the remembrance service, that's by council?
Yeah.
And then that's seconded by councillor Brooks to remove the remembrance. So that leaves the 3 dates as the armed forces, the motocross and the light switch on. Would anyone like to speak to that recommendation? Councillor Bell?
Just for the processes, do we need to have anything in there about inquiring with the county council about coronation? Does that need to be written in there, or is that a separate matter?
We've taken it out.
We can add on to the end of the recommendation once we've got the dates set.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a proposer, seconder now to those 3 dates. Councillor Bell? No, I've already got the proposer and seconder, so no one else.
This is an amendment.
The amendment to the recommendation. So those 3 dates. All those in favour of that amendment? Those against? Or against, and any abstentions? No. So the amendment now comes to substantive. Do I have a proposer? Yeah. Councillor Thurman, do I have a seconder? Councillor Bell. Those in favour as the amendment, as the substantive, those in favour? And it should go the same again. Against? 3 against. Carried. Thank you very much, Charlie. Moving on to item 10, which is the review of the public toilet opening times. We'll obviously send his apologies, and I think Tony is going to introduce the item. And once Tony's introduced the item, I'm going to invite Councillor Wakeling to add any additional things to part of the working group. Thank you very much.
Can we stay here?
Yes, fine, Tony. Thank you.
As part of the review of the council's public conveniences and cleansing service, the member working group established by this committee has considered the current toilet opening times. The current opening and closing times vary throughout the year, with longer opening times in the summer months applied equally to all the toilets. So, for example, the toilets of the Node Gardens are closed at the same time as the toilets of the New Beach office. In order to contain the cost of casual staff and avoid the need to employ external contractors, the member working group is proposing to amend the opening times with the most popular seafront toilets kept open longer, as you'll see in the appendix. The other issues that the working group are considering, including cleaning standards and facility maintenance, will be reported back to this committee in the coming months. However, there is a need now to agree the changes to the opening times in order that they can take effect from the 1st of April. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Tony. Councillor Wakeling, did you want to add anything?
Yes, so we have discussed these and you've got the presentation in front of you. Obviously, there are consequences to this, and we do sometimes get complaints from residents that the toilet's not open late enough already. But we have a budget as well. We have set the budget for next year and we have to cut our cloth accordingly. So it's a compromise. It might not, if we had infinite money, I wouldn't be proposing it, but unfortunately, the reality is we've got to find a way to control the cost of this service. So that is the reason why the hours are reduced. I would suggest to the committee that it's on a 1-year review. Try this for a season and let's review it next winter and see whether it worked, whether it didn't, whether it needs amending. But that would be my sort of suggestion to the committee to consider it as a 1-season trial of some reduced hours.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wakeling. Councillor Furlong, I know you also served on that. Have you got anything to add?
I don't think so. Thank you, Councillor Wakeling. We did go through it, members. We did really try our best to stretch the opening hours, but we just couldn't. You know, the budget is cut and this is a compromise of what we can do. I do actually think from the conversation that the working group had, we did find some holes in service, didn't we? And delivery, Luke, Tony, that actually we'll find improvements through this, and one of them was the open hours, because you've got places open at exactly the same time and you can't be in two places. So we came up with some good compromises and some closing from rather than closing at, so it gives again our employees flexibility to get across the town and do what they need to do, and of course be able to stagger it so our cleansing teams can be in there and you know, not have to be there when it opens, which is when it doesn't need cleaning. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Furlong. Councillor Toft as well, anything you would say from the group? Anything? And Councillor Brooks, you were also there, wasn't
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing, nothing. Okay, Councillor James.
Yeah, I was just getting a little bit flush with all this, so I'm just
Oh, it's terrible, Councillor
James. Isn't it? But no, there's 2 questions actually. One was, what happened to the whole community toilet scheme? Because I believe there are a few premises in town that had agreed to be part of this community toilet scheme. I thought at one point the cinema agreed, but apparently they're not. They don't like people using the toilet. I know the Range still has a toilet as when it was Debenhams, but is that something we need to be looking into again? Obviously, I don't want too much officer time taken up with finding out who's willing to participate in that, but I think we do need to find out who's part of this community toilet scheme so that people have got an option if the toilets are closed. And also, I remember when there was trouble in the toilets around by the Duke of Cornwall, around the corner there, that apparently the police had offered to hold a key to those toilets and lock them up at night when they needed locking rather than leave them locked for people not to use. And then that would hopefully stop all the people that tend to go up Helen Lane and all the other places and wee in a doorway. But I don't know if that ever got taken up, but I've actually spoken to the police about it and the police had offered to do that.
Yeah, I'm happy to pick up on those 2 points. I mean, I think the community toilet scheme has not done well. We did a review of it, I think, earlier last year. We visited some of the businesses, and I think it particularly took a knock during COVID, and there are less businesses interested in formally being part of the scheme. I think if people want to find their own way to a hospitality business where they know there's a toilet, then I think it's easier than us trying to get them to sign up to that positively. I know the toilets at the back of the Alexander Gardens are, as according to their lease, have to be open and available to the public. So that is one which is definitely not ours, but is available to the community. So as a scheme, I don't think it's got much of a future in terms of us getting people to formally say that they will open their toilets to the public. I think it's easier if the public just naturally find their way to those facilities. In terms of, I think you're referring to the Maiden Street toilets. I haven't had any further approaches from Dorset Police about them being the key holders. Personally, I think it's easier if we lock them up when we know we're going to lock them up, and we check them before locking them up, and we make sure they're clean and they're empty, and we have a new tagging system whereby our staff go into every single cubicle, making sure they're empty and they're clean, there's no flooding, and I think it's a much more secure way of operating than just allowing the place to be key holders. We have to look after our facilities, they're part of a much wider building, and I think we have a duty of care to make sure that we're the ones who are the key holders.
I think that the business stemmed from all the problems they were having around there about 18 months ago. But I think on the community toilet scheme, I can see what you're saying. I think there are still some places that that won't let people just go in their toilets. So I think there may be something I might sort of have a bit of a sort of nosy around and see if I can't sort of get people to actually volunteer.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lambert and Councillor Wakeling.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think we as a committee should commend the work group for the excellent work that they've done so far. They're probably going to come up with more excellent ideas, but I think we should recognise the good work that they've done and go, in my opinion, go straight to a vote on the recommendation, which I am happy to propose. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wakeling.
Just to briefly answer Councillor James, as part of the working group, we did find out how much we were spending on security last summer when we had a local security company going around locking them up. I won't say it's in the public meeting, but it was a lot, like an awful lot of budget going on just paying doormen to go and locking our toilets up. So as part of the savings here, by shutting them, admitting they're closing earlier, but that means that our staff will be doing them on our payroll, and we're not having to pay a contractor to come around late at night. And additionally, the level of vandalism seems to go up exponentially the later they're open. So leaving them open later just means we have a high maintenance bill in repairing them. I do recall one event about 2 years ago, I ended up wading in there to turn the water off because some of them would sink off the wall at 11 o'clock at night. So as you do on the night out. So yeah, it's a compromise, but it will save us money and bring us service for the budget.
Thank you very much. Got anybody else? No. So I think, members, it's important to recognise that this is a small piece of a wide piece of work that's being done by this working group. I support Councillor Lambert in his thanks to the group. I'm going to move now to a proposal. Councillor Lambert, you alluded you'd like to make one.
Yeah. I did, yes.
Yeah, your proposal is?
My proposal is as presented in the paper.
To agree the recommendation as printed in the paper, do I have a seconder? Councillor Dickinson. All those in favour, show of hands. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Now move forward to item 11, which is the Tourist Information Centre options. I've got down here that Councillor Wakeling and Gray are going to be introducing this item. No? No?
David just looks at me.
No?
So members, we were asked to go away and come back with some ideas for tourist information. And everything's in the report for you. At our meeting, we kind of sat there and said, well, what services are already provided in Weymouth? And we started making a list, and the list got longer and longer and longer. So we had to ask Michelle very nicely to go and just complete the list for us. And that list is in here for you. So we haven't resolved very much, but we've come back to ask the committee for more steer on what you'd like us to actually do. Given the list of services that are provided by others, as there, I think one is missing, which is the wayfarers, which is the Dorset Volunteer Service. They also do a lot of work, particularly around the cruise ships. Given all of that is provided, what do you see the town council providing in addition? David and I certainly do not think we should duplicate a service that already exists, especially if we have to pay for it. If someone else is doing it, why should we also pay?
Yeah.
So the sort of question is, there's 3 bullet points. Given what is already provided, what would the committee like to steer us to do in the future? If I ask all the questions, then I let Ryan control the debate. The second question was, currently, although there's online presence out of town, there is nothing physical that goes out of town. The BID has occasionally done posters at railway stations, but that's about it. We did mention the idea that we could go away and promote brand Weymouth afar. We could go to the Dorset Steam Show or further afield with a stand and say, visit Weymouth, it's a wonderful destination. It's the second best beach in the UK. All these kind of things. Is that something you'd like us to consider? Potentially it could be an expensive operation, but there will be benefits for the town, but there's a cost to it. And the third question that really we'd like a bit of a steer on is, if you do want us to do some kind of physical tourist model, what kind of staffing model do you think we should be looking at? If it's a fully staffed by town council staff, you're looking at a minimum of 3 people on the payroll to cover breaks and holidays and stuff. You're going to have to pay them 12 months of the year. I mean, you're looking at a 6-digit sum once you've got staff and a premises in, if you want us to do something that is paid for by the council. Obviously, that budget does not exist. So that is a question for you. Do you think that? If you're looking for something more volunteer-based, we have tried to see what models are in other towns in Dorset, such as Swanage and Bridport. Most of those are volunteer models. There are weaknesses to that, obviously. If your volunteers don't turn up, it doesn't open. But that's the nature of that. So that was the third question, was that sort of thing. And then the final thing here, Michelle found these wonderful bikes, which are in the attachment, Appendix D. And we thought this was actually quite an interesting idea, and it would be a way to sort of test the water for a season. They do these with the cargo bikes, which are in the appendice, which is something we could take along the promenade as a physical presence somewhere where there isn't currently a tourist thing. We could be by the railway station where people get off the train promoting around Weymouth. Potentially we could do this in conjunction with the wayfarers, the volunteer service. We could also take it somewhere else. We could take it out of town, it would fit in the back of a van, and you could take it away to a show or something. And in terms of cost, we looked at very briefly at bespoke vehicles and modular buildings, but you're looking at £30,000–40,000 just to get it off the ground. This is £1,500, so different order of magnitude. So basically, it's a lot of questions for you, committee, I'm afraid, and we'd like a bit of a steer as the working group, where you'd like us to investigate in the future. And I don't know if David has something to add on the stage. Councillor Hope, please.
Thank you very much. Michelle, they covered it all, anything to add?
No, I think they covered it well.
There you go. Good. Well done, Luke. Got a few speakers here. I've got Councillor Roos, Bell, James, and then Young.
Can I speak as the other member of the group that I was on the.
Of course, yes, sorry,
Yeah.
Councillor James, yes.
I was just going to say, as somebody, me and Councillor Tewkesbury have probably been on council with Kevin Brooks longer than anyone, and we got rid of the TIC years ago, one because of cost and because there was other things emerging at the same time. So personally, I like the idea of a bike if it's feasible and it will still cost money to have somebody on it. But there's so many other options there of people already promoting Weymouth, and we can see that. And we're always being told, if you want to know something, Google it. And most people do that. And I've met people that have come here from all over the place, and you ask them why they've come here, and they say because somebody knows us come here, they've seen it on something. So I think we don't really need to be spending any more money on any sort of facility that does tourist information, because I think, like they've discovered, it's something that's already being done by lots of other partners. So personally, I just think do nothing at this point. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Councillor James. I do apologise.
Spend no money, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Councillor Roos.
I actually agree with Councillor James. I remember Weymouth Borough Council mentioning with the town centre manager portals that people would get off at the train station or pop into town. There'd be an electronic thing they could just press and look at what was available. It's not really needed. I mean, we've got so much stuff online. I think most people, bar a few elderly who know where the Weymouth information shop is, who many have access to, and interestingly, a lot of organisations now, if they know that you're housebound or unable to actually make it into town, will actually go to you. They will visit you with information and link. A part of my job, my day job, is actually link working into the community. So I think it's a bit kind of unnecessary, and I think we already have an awful lot that's there. And I think for younger people, everybody goes to Google, don't they? I mean, who doesn't now? If you want information, the first thing I do is pick up my phone and type it in, and it's there within an instant. So I think we're kind of spending money for the sake of it if we go ahead with this, although it's worth maybe looking at options of nice things like at the Dorset Steam Fair advertising Weymouth. But I think that would come under a different banner than TIC. It'd be more like advertising. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Roos. Councillor Young.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I'd agree with Councillor Jones and Councillor Roos, but whoever thought the cargo bike idea, I think it's brilliant, because it ticks all the boxes, like the expensive ones, of a London bus or a specialist van or something, at a fraction of the cost. And provided you find somebody to actually ride the thing around and sit there on it, it's brilliant. It's something unusual that will get noticed, and you can take it around to various events and things. Very minimal cost for that. I would support that. I think that's a good idea.
Okay, next I've got Councillor Bell.
I'm kind of in the Councillor Young camp here. I think I sort of came into the meeting thinking this isn't a role we need to fulfil. But I think if we've got something like the cargo bike that we can move down to areas of the beach that aren't as well served with that mobility, I think that's just a great option. I think in the grand scheme of things, that's a relatively small outlay to give us an extra option. I don't think we should be spending more than that. I think that's enough with everything else that's available.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Councillor Toft?
I think I'm only alone in my opinion, but when I worked at the BID, know how many people come looking for the physical TIC, sorry, and are amazed that there isn't one. No, there wasn't one at the time. So I'm really, really pleased that we have the information shop. And I think that we should support it, because though you say you can just Google it, in the middle of the summer when the beach is packed, you cannot get connectivity. So you may want to know where you want to go tomorrow, but you can't get online to do it. So if there's an information shop, you can go in and pick up a leaflet or ask a local. So I think that, you know, I don't think IT is everything. It is good, but I think there is still a generation out there of an age like my parents, for example, who don't have a smartphone. I know it sounds incomprehensible, but those are the type of people who visit us still, and I still think we need to make provision for them. So I hope that we support go on supporting the information shop. And also, I think, you say, people say we don't have to promote Weymouth, it's not our job. But why isn't it our job to promote Weymouth? Surely that means more visitors, which means more income, which means better business, which means job opportunities, which means people coming here, discovering and saying, I'm going to set up a business here because it's so wonderful. So I think I can't see the point of Dorset show, because people in the Dorset show know where Weymouth is anyway, so it's a waste of time saying come to Weymouth. But if you went to some of the international tourism shows up in Birmingham and London, and you actually invested in partnership with We Are Weymouth, and you actually had a stand and actually promoted, I think we would get an uptake. But whether it's justifiable, I don't know, but I just think it's a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Toft. I've got Councillor Gray, but before you come in, Councillor Gray, I'm just going to make a point that members, we need to consider the future of a lot of these options is in the hands of the business people in the coming months as they go back to reballot. So We Are Weymouth is currently going out for a reballot. Helen, when's that? You probably know, end of March. I knew you know. End of March. Now, if the businesses of the town, and am I right in thinking we get a vote as the town council, which is on full council agenda next week, if that vote is lost, the work that the bid does on the top line will be gone. What that would also lead to is they have previously significantly subsidised or supported the information shop. There will be a gap there within that funding requirement. Loving Weymouth and Portland, significantly supported by We Are Weymouth, financially supported. Again, the capacity that that organisation does there wouldn't be available without that funding. I think the Wayfarers are still going, aren't they, as well? We Are Weymouth, Helen?
No, it's actually run by Dorset Volunteers.
Dorset Volunteers now, but again, I think that was started, wasn't it, by the bid? I know they were involved at one point. So I think to say tonight, members, that we are looking for the working group to sort of wind up and probably say no more, will mean that we couldn't bring anything back for 6 months under standing orders. Not a wise thing. And I would actually say that we defer this until we have the ballot at the bid. The bid gets lost, we will have some money available, probably not a great amount. No, off the top of your head?
I'm going to say there's lots of it, Chair, but there's options.
How much do we pay in the levy fee to the way on? £5,000. £1,000, okay. Enough to buy a bike, nearly. So I would actually be looking to defer this until we know what happens with the bid, because the need to step up, as I think as Helen's alluded to, sorry, Councillor Toft, may become greater. But before I move my recommendation, Councillor Gray.
Sort of stole my thunder a little bit on the bid, so I think that's a wise move. But there are a couple of practical things I think we could do, and there is one fundamental question I think that we need to steer on before we go even any further. So practically, I think reviewing our offer in the shop, so what we actually offer in terms of leaflets and things like that, just to make sure, get an officer to check that offer, that we have all of those leaflets available, and they're really clear about what we're trying to promote in Weymouth. I think the bike is a low-cost, novel idea, a bit like the big beach chair that you know, you could move around the promenade. I've got a little bit of a thing about security of it, but other than that, I think it's probably a low-cost option that we could move forward. I think would support that. The question, the sort of big question that we need to steer on is, do you as a committee think that it is our job, not to promote Weymouth, because it is our job to do that, but if you want to put money behind it, because if you want to go to these shows or further afield, that is going to cost. So if that's the role you want to have, then you're going to need to find the money to do it. So you talk about transporting the bike, member of staff or 2 members of staff maybe, and various times during the year. So if you want that route strategically, you're going to need funding for that. But if you just want us to promote within our own town, I don't think that's going to cost. And my last point is we're getting quite close on the digital project. Aren't we, Tony? Where he's gone? We're getting quite close to a tender. It's been a really painful, long process. But once we get digital capability on the seafront, it could be all of the roundels or none, or some of the roundels. We then have the ability to digitally put stuff. We could effectively buy our own advertising space or reserve our own advertising space with the company, and we can start promoting through that. So that's what the future looks like. So all these practical suggestions, but the question I think Luke and I and Michelle one answered is, if you want us to go to the Bath and West show or Birmingham somewhere to promote, that's going to need a budget, and you're going to need to come back with a PID. And if it's not, and it's just internal, then fine. So I'd really like to steer on that, and I agree with the sort of delaying the decision
in terms of the big decision. Thank you.
If nobody else wants to come back in, Councillor, I think again, a lot of that, still in those options rely on the bid. Because they have a budget for marketing and PR, you know, they put posters up on all the way down the railway line as you come in, visit Weymouth, they go to these expeditions. So whether or not we need to partner with the bid to enhance our offering in those ways, to, you know, increase what we do at a lower cost. So I think, yes, I agree, we need to look at marketing out there. I think we need to review our current brochure and how that's done. I've said for a number of years, how we get a job lot printed at the beginning of the year. They then are distributed at the beginning of the year, and there's nothing less out there promoting Weymouth for the rest of the year. It's totally wrong. So I think there's a lot of things to do. But I really think it's a shame because we've been trying to get this working group and this piece of work going for a long time. And now it's got some traction, and now we're sort of saying, hold the brakes for a month. But I think it's worth, I think that's what we need to do, and I think we need to come back. But I think definitely we need to look at promotion wider, further afield, but the need to what we do could significantly change in 4 weeks' time. So I think if we can defer this, if anyone's got any thoughts, feed them into the working group, Councillor Wakeling, Gray, James, it's just you three on there at the moment, isn't it? So if members have got views on where we should be advertising, how to publicise Weymouth. Love the bike idea, like you say, it's the gimmick like the giant jack chair. I'm sure we could offer it to the wayfarers that are already out. But we have to do some
We
sort
can
of.
get on with that if you want, to make that decision, we can get on with that.
The only thing I would say though, is we might need to revisit our bylaws on the seafront, because you couldn't cycle on the seafront at the moment during the daytime.
Pushing it.
You would be pushing it, Councillor Gray, yes.
Cycling without age has got exceptions, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. Members, have we got any recommendations at the moment? Councillor Young?
Can I just ask for clarification here? Because it seemed to me that to be promoting Weymouth far and wide at big exhibitions and things is quite important. But did you say somebody is actually doing that already? That's
Currently they are, but they may not be in 4 weeks' time.
Okay.
Councillor Bell?
Just kind of picking up on what Councillor Gray just said, it seems to me there's two sort of strands to this. There's promotion along our own seafront, there's promotion elsewhere. I would like to see us sort of crack on with the bike idea, get that happening. So there are two strands to this. Have that as a first thing to be actioning, and then we consider what happens beyond that outside of our realm, so to speak. Sort of two strands to it. Because when could we, this is to the people involved, when could we get the bike going? Presumably very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, just Councillor Bell, before we get carried away there on a procedural matter, there's no budget for this at the moment. There's no recommendations here, or anyone may get where this bike will come from. The costing is for the bike. By the time you then look at the branding, because we want it branded right, that'll be additional cost. I think we need a costed proposal to come back before saying, go out and buy the bike.
Be sure that it's budget.
We're going to keep it, we're going to
Yeah.
store it.
The budget use.
Maintain it.
Who's gonna ride it? The mayor is gonna ride it.
Yeah. So I think, again, we can go back and instruct the working group along the officers to come up.
I'll come
It's an instruction.
Yeah.
Councillor Wakeling?
If I could say, if you look at the paper, some of them actually, the cost includes branding of them, so that would be included. There is a storage where Cycling Without Age store their two rickshaws, which has space for a third. So if we were to, we could store it overnight in the same place that they store their two, which is at one of our own properties. Yes, I think we'd have to do some work on the exact model of whether Dorset Community Volunteers were going to be manning it on our behalf. If the, I don't know if Services has that much budget and would like to allocate it now, in which case the working group can go and work out the details. And the rota for councillors to ride in.
There's a different cost though.
Councillor Gray, you've offered to push it, haven't you?
You will be a councillor.
I won't be riding it.
Yeah, I think, Councillor Bell, you want to make a recommendation?
Possibly not at that stage yet, but what I was getting at was, obviously the group would come to us and they'll steer on what we want. I think we should be steering them to proceed with whatever the next step is in that direction. And that's really what I'm getting at, so I don't know how we want that phrased.
So, yeah, I think if we are going to look at this also, we need to make sure that the Dorset volunteers will use it. Do we need any training for them to safely cycle it, PPE? Do they do a cycling proficiency test? These are all things that Dorset Volunteer Bureau may insist on. So, Councillor Gray. Okay, so we'll come back after 4 weeks with a proposal for stage 1, which is costed proposal for the bike with any associated costs and training needs, and if any organisations will partner with us to promote that. We'll come back with a full cost of the bike process. Also, then we'll have a better idea on the next services committee, I assume, a better idea of where the bid is going, and then we can go through this conversation again and say, in light of the bid conversation, we steer you to go and look at this. That's my proposal. Somebody can propose it. Okay, do I have a recommendation or proposal? Would anyone like to? Councillor Lambert?
Yeah, I propose that we defer this item until the next services committee, and in the meantime, the working group will take on the advice that's come out of this meeting, this non-specific advice that's come out of this meeting.
Perfect, Councillor Lambert. So Councillor Thurman will second that. Do I have a vote? All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to that working group again. It's been a long time coming, this piece of work, and I'm glad to see it moving along. Moving on, Councillor James, it's your time to introduce the sea swimming PID item as well, please.
Well, I've had to shut my computer down because the battery's gone, but basically it was, Councillor Toff goes sea swimming as well. I know we go different places and everyone, but in Weymouth, I know at one point Blue Tip, there was like 800 members that signed up to their Facebook page. You've also got the Groin Booby Bouncers, you've got the Black Pigs, you've got several swimming groups. You've got the Wave, right, there you go, you've got wave-based swimmers, you've got lots of groups, and a few of them have said, wouldn't it be nice to have a mass sea swimming event, whether it's just a family sort of fun day to get everyone together, whether it's something the council are going to make money at by renting out pitches to have stalls along the whatever part of the beach we decide to use, like food or people selling their dry rope swimming gear, goggles, all the rest of it. There's a few things that some of the sea swimmers have thought of they could do as part of the event. Maybe get a street trading license and have like a raffle, raise some money. They recently, last year, there was one of the swimmers, she passed away quite young from cancer. They're looking at the moment to raise some funds. So she was in Joseph Wells, so we could do lots of things with it. It's whether the council would be willing to help organise it, because we don't think we can just do it on our own, because we'd need sort of certain permissions, whether the council would have any money to put into it. So I think it's a discussion that we've had to sit down with, say, Charlie and Will, perhaps some of the sea swimming groups, and say, right, what do you think we can do and how do we do it? But it ticks a lot of boxes for health. There's a lot of the people that go swimming that walk and cycle to get there. It's inclusive, it includes different ages. There's no, you know yourself, you go, everyone, different sizes, shapes, ages, it's completely inclusive. And it's a good way of keeping, and you go, I see you down there a lot in your speedos, I say. But it's just a good way of keeping fit, mental health, the amount of people that go that say it's really helped with their mental health since they started going. So unless you've tried it, don't knock it. I think, if you want to see what it's about, come down on Saturday or Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, jump in the water, you'll love it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor James. So we've currently got a PID proposal. Quite a few of these coming into the committee at the moment, which is great. Great to see members' ideas coming forward. Members, obviously, our point here is to discuss and choose whether or not we want to move this forward to the next stage, which means it will go on the project management board, and then in turn will be assigned a project officer to come up with further information and come back to this committee for deliberation whether or not it's an event that we want to pursue. So that's what we're being asked to consider now. I'm going to open it up to the floor. Anyone makes to make a comment at this point? Councillor Wakeling? Councillor Rose?
I think Lambert was before me, do you
No,
want to
no,
go?
you, I've got the
Okay,
order.
all right, okay. I was gonna say, I really like the idea, Christine, and, I wouldn't mind opening it up to encouraging school children as well who can sea swim. Because my son's school, half of them are fish, and they all seem to be into training to be lifeguards at the age of 8. And I think like they would really love to be able to just go down to the beach and show off their sea swimming skills.
I think we just want a big event.
Yeah.
Inclusive of everybody, every ability, every age, whether it's fun, whether it's competitions, whether it's just people getting down the beach and having a natter, showing off their skills, whatever. That's what we want. But if we have that added thing of some stalls on the seafront selling food or drinks or swimwear or whatever else, then even better. So,
Yeah, I like that.
Councillor Lambert?
Yes, thanks, Chair. It seems like a very good idea.
thank you.
Can I ask, senior management team if we've got officer capacity, because I know we are in difficulties potentially.
So this would need, the PID, if approved, would need to go to the development board and then get allocated to member staff. At present, we're one project officer down, we're going out to recruit next week. But realistically, we're not going to be at full capacity until June. So in all honesty, Christine, I don't think it would happen this year, but I think it's it will definitely get into the system for the board.
I've never envisaged it being something that was just going to be able to happen. I was hoping that we may be able to do something later on in the year while the sea's a bit warm, but if we can't, but if we know it's somewhere on the horizon and that, everyone can get involved in and have their two penny worth and arrange something for next year, because none of us have actually come up with a time that we'd like to see it happen, whether we want it in April or September or whatever. So that's something we need to sit down and discuss with whoever and say, right, this is the time frame, this is what we'd like. So, but it needs to be on the sort of the register somewhere that there's lots of sea swimmers out there that would like to see something big.
Absolutely, Christine. Councillor James, you've done the right thing to bring this forward to get it moving. So yeah, Councillor Wakeling.
Thank you. I was going to say the point that's just been made, really. Just looking at the project log, we've got about 50 projects that are currently in development and another 40 that are unallocated because we haven't got the resources to deliver them. So that might make a total of nearly 90 projects. And I remind you all that our election is in just over a year, so we basically have a year left. It's a fantastic idea. I think it'd be better for us and maybe Christine if you support the community to do their own events, because in all likelihood it will not happen before our election term is up. So I do support it, I'd like to see it happen, but from a resource point of view, I don't think there's actually a lot of point in adding it to the project log at this stage. And that, I'm afraid, is the reality now. We have got so much in the queue, we can't just keep adding more projects into it.
I think it'd be good to add it on there, because whatever happens next year, whoever's here, it's still going to be there somewhere. And even if somebody comes back in 2 years' time and says, hey, somebody put this forward. I mean, I can still talk to swimmers, you can talk to swimmers.
I think, we should, I appreciate Councillor Wakem's comment that we shouldn't dismiss it yet because it might be a quick win. Councillor Dickinson.
I agree. I think it's a great idea. Get it in on the list, because if it is only a small thing, and a small event can grow and grow and grow, Christine. So the first event, first year, nice and small, get all the members together, they know, next year we're going to do this, next year, and the event can grow.
Yeah, and that's what we'd like to see.
So put it in. I know it's a long list, but get it in.
Okay, I'm going to try and sum up. Councillor Roos first.
I was just going to say, is it worth us? It seems like there's a lot of resource in councillors here than having to maybe rely so much on officers. Is it worth councillors creating a steering group where we can get our heads together and do our own research?
I would say, Councillor Roos, if anyone has got the desire to work with the sea swimmers to deliver this event, obviously contact Councillor James. And I'm sure you can move at a faster pace to the council, but the request has come forward to ask the council for support because of the nature of the event. Gonna sum up, so the PID's here, the process has been followed to bring it to this stage, as I've alluded to, it's up to the committee now to decide if it wants services support to get onto the development board. We've alluded to that there is currently a lot of projects open there, but some of those projects are specific to certain areas of the council. And this could be one that is supported by the resort team, but maybe not picked up now till after the season. So it may come quicker than waiting its term in 90th. So I don't think there's any off-put of moving this forward. Councillor James, I presume you're proposing it?
Yes, please.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tewkesbury. All those in favour of moving this forward? Any against? Or any abstentions? Or one abstention?
Go and get your trunks on.
That's carried. Congratulations, Councillor James, on bringing that forward, and it's, like I say, it's great to see a PID moving like that.
Should have mentioned the speedos.
Right, we're not quite there yet, nearly. Item 9, members, is information items for noting and information only. Obviously, Freya did allude to on the email that questions should be submitted ahead. We've received no questions on these items. So we now move then to item 10, which is to close the meeting. I'd like to thank members for your support. Very, very good debate and deliberation here, and I think we've come to the right conclusions on a lot of things. So at 9:28 this evening, I'll close the meeting. Thank you very much.